Hey guys, welcome to episode
Something.
of Teens and Faith Catholic Conversations. I'm your host Annie, and I'm joined by my co-host Gianna.
Hey, what's up?
So before we get into this episode, we want to start off with our prayers. O Saint Philomena, Virgin and Martyr, pray for us that, through thy most powerful intercession, we may obtain that purity of mind and heart which leads to the perfect love of God. Amen. And now the prayer to the Holy Spirit. Come, Holy Spirit, fill the hearts of thy faithful and kindle in them the fire of thy love.
With thy spirit, and they shall be created.
And thou shalt renew the face of the earth. Let us pray. O God, who hast taught the hearts of the faithful by the light of the Holy Spirit, grant that by the gift of the same Spirit we may be always truly wise and ever rejoice in his consolation through Christ our Lord. Amen. So, Gianna, what do we have coming up this episode?
This episode, we will be interviewing Father Simpson. Uh, I think we're the first ones who interviewed him as well. Yeah, we actually just got finished interviewing him, and now we're doing the intro and outro. But it's really interesting, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, it was really fun to film too. So,
Yeah.
all right, Gianna, what have you been up to?
Um,
Oh, before you go, I have a new rule. You are not allowed to say nothing much. Okay? Go.
What? Wait, oh, here we go. All right, fine. This morning, we had a cabinet guy come in because we are thinking about redoing our kitchen.
Okay.
There
That
you
is
go.
so
See, you happy now? You want
okay.
This is
That
my
is
life for you.
wow. That's fun. Kitchen
Yeah.
remodeling's fun. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So we're thinking about getting a lot done. He came in this morning. The dog was going crazy because he's very sociable, and so I was holding him back the whole time. He was being really stubborn. Yeah, so that was what I've been up to lately. What about you?
Um, nothing much.
Hey, what? Whoa, no, no, hypocrisy. No.
Okay. Um, really not that much. I mean, school, nannying. I feel like I had something coming up. We're doing a ton of interviews this weekend, so I'm really excited for those. So that'll
Oh
be
yeah, I
fun.
forgot about that.
We're pretty booked. Hey, hey. We're pretty booked in February, so that's nice. And then I have Random Stories with Annie Part 3. So, all right. This is about my dad. So shout out Dad if you're listening. I'm pretty sure you proofs all these. So, hi Dad, how's work? Anyways, but so we were at my grandma's last night and she has pretty steep stairs, but whatever, right? So my dad's walking, and Lucy's like on the right side of him, and there's just kids surrounding him while he's walking down the stairs because they're getting ready to head out, and that's always a big event because there's a million of us. But my dad had pretty long pant legs on, and I had gotten to the bottom of the stairs, and all of a sudden I look up, and my dad's just flying through the air, and I'm like, what? And then he like bangs, and he lands really hard, and I was like, what just happened? And like when he was like landing, he grabbed like I don't know what you want to call it, like not a mantle, but what are those poles that like some people have like by their stairs? What are those called?
I think they're just called poles or like the railing
Yeah,
post or
railing, railing. There you go, railing. Okay. He grabbed it and I totally thought it was gonna break. But like it was weird because he landed way more gracefully than he should have. And so I was like, what happened? Are you okay? Because like he doesn't fall ever. So it was weird. And we were like talking about it the whole way home. And he's like, yeah, I am surprised I'm not hurt because I hit really hard. So that it was shocking. And I was like, did your guardian angel catch you or something? And he was like, probably. Like I should be dead right now. Like he landed somehow on his back, his foot, both of his arms, and his side. Like it was an event. Like it was absolutely hysterical. And my mom, like if you know anything about her, which I don't know why you guys would, but she loves it when people fall. Like obviously, like she makes sure they're not hurt, blah blah blah. But like it is hysterical. Like my dad will send her videos of like people slipping on ice, and she'll just be like cracking up for like 5 minutes. Like it's it's so funny. But so I told my mom about this, but she was sick, so like she couldn't appreciate it that much, and she's still sick, so I can't wait to like retell her the story. But it was absolutely hysterical. Like my dad flew through the air like a gazelle. Like it was so great.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wait, okay. Was this at all caught on video?
No, it
What?
wasn't. I had my phone in my hand, but I wasn't recording. I was like, what am I doing with myself? Like I should have recorded this. But yeah, it was
Does your grandma
absolutely.
have like security cameras in her house?
No, she doesn't, unfortunately. So it's just, yeah. Everyone thought that railing was gonna break. Like everyone thought he was gonna fly through that railing and like kill three kids or something. But it was, yeah, because there was kids at the bottom of the stairs too. So it was just, oh, it was hilarious. And my grandma like heard it and was like, "What just happened?" Like it was so funny.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna be able to stop laughing. So, all right, now it is time to interview Father Simpson. All right, so now it is time to interview Father Simpson. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello. So I was well, I'm Father Thomas Simpson, I guess. Um, I was born and raised in Ohio in the kind of the Cincinnati area. Our family lived north of Cincinnati. As the church is north of Cincinnati too, but I always say Cincinnati just because everybody knows where that is. So I'm the second oldest of eight kids, um, four girls and four boys. Um, Nice spread there, I guess. We were all homeschooled. My mom homeschooled all of us, and then now I am a priest at St. Gertrude the Great, and I help Father McKenna take care of the mission. That's mostly what I do. I have a couple other things, but that's for the most part. That's what I do.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a similar experience, I guess, to Father Brueggemann's when he was on here. He was telling us kind of the same thing that he had. So, yeah, that's fun. Um, yeah, and I know I've seen you like go from mission to mission constantly. How do you like deal with the missions? Like, is it a lot to handle?
Well, sometimes it gets, I guess a little tiring with the travel, but I really like the mission, so it's not really that big of a problem. I always look forward to going to them. So, it's just I guess part of, I mean, with all jobs, all walks of life, there's stuff that you like and there's stuff that, you're kind of, it gets tiring, but I do like it. So, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Mhm.
So, were you always Sedevacantist? Did you grow up that way?
Yes, I was, which is a great benefit. There is one drawback to it, but for the most part, it's all good things. My parents were Sedevacantists before they got married, and then so I grew up, yeah, in the faith. We lived about 20 minutes. My family lives about 20 minutes from St. Gertrude the Great, and that's where I've gone for my whole life. Always been a parishioner there. It is kind of interesting. When I was receiving my first Holy Communion and confirmation, that was right at the time where St. Gertrude's was moving from the older building that they had in Sharonville, which was kind of a smaller church, to the one that we're in now. So I was confirmed in the old church, and then I received my first Holy Communion in the new building. I was actually the first one to receive my first Holy Communion in the new building. Um, so I don't know how they organized the class, but somehow I ended up being first. So that was nice. The drawback to being or the only problem I guess you could say, which is not really a problem, but to always being a state of Secundus is that I have, you know, sometimes I have a little bit of a hard time helping people convert, because that's something in the missions. You talk to a lot of different people, and it's nice to be able to help them, but I can't really, I'm learning more about, what people go through when they convert, but I never went through that myself, so sometimes I have a little difficult with that, but that's not really I mean, compared to the grace and all the good things about being a state of a contest, it doesn't really compare. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember my dad
mm,
was saying that one time where he was always looking for someone who was Catholic or, someone who was in the process of converting.
yeah,
Because if he went to, my mom, she'd be like, well, I was
yeah,
Sedevacantist my whole life. I can't, relate much to what you're going through.
yeah,
So he would always go to somebody else because, like, how did they specifically convert? How did they find the true faith and everything? So,
Mhm.
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
All right. So now we're wondering, how did you know your vocation?
Well, so I was always kind of involved with the ceremonies at St. Gertrude. So I was around clergy a lot. That wasn't really anything new for me. I served for a lot of things. I served for Bishop McGuire's ordination to the priesthood, actually, and Father Letteranta's ordination. So, I had been around them a lot. So I kind of had, I'd already kind of heard about this. I knew what the priesthood was like and stuff, but I still didn't know though. So what I heard, what I guess you could say started it was I heard a talk by a priest about his path to the priesthood, and I was about 13 at the time, and he said that he would just, he didn't know what he was going to do, so he just decided to start saying a prayer every day to know his vocation. So I thought, well, that's pretty easy to do. So I started doing that, just a short prayer every day. I was kind of hoping, I was thinking about the priesthood, but I was also kind of hoping that I, you know, I wouldn't have to, so to speak, touch any more pens after I got out of high school because I didn't really like school that much or reading or anything. So, but I was thinking about the priesthood. So and throughout high school and then for a year after, I was working. I worked with a mechanic, um, and then I mowed grass for our neighbors and for a couple other people, and I also worked on a dairy farm. So I liked all those jobs, but there was a lot of like outside stuff. So I was kind of hoping that I could continue doing that, but I at the same time realized that I should at least try out the seminary. And I had been praying about it, so I was still thinking about it, but it was kind of like something that might happen in the future. For some reason, it didn't click to me that, at the time I was like 18, and like this is about when you go to the seminary, when you really start thinking about it. But anyway, it was 17 or 18. I can't exactly remember when. It was Father McGuire at the time. Now he's a bishop, obviously, but he asked me if I had been thinking about the seminary, and I was kind of surprised because I had, um, and that was about all he just asked, and then that was basically it. And then about a year later, he asked me again. I think this was in November when he asked me, and he asked a few more questions, um, a little more about it. Um, well, then he told, I think what I'm guessing has happened is he told Father Chicada, and Father Chicada didn't waste any time. It was like as soon as he found out, it was like the next day I was there, he pulled me aside and said, "Hi, I hear you're thinking about the seminary. I'm going down next month to," because at the time he was teaching at the seminary, he would go down for once a week. I mean, once a month for a week to teach, and I'm going down next month. Wait, I'll get you a ticket. You come with me. I'm like, oh boy, that was a lot faster than I expected. But so I went down there and it was good. It didn't help me. I wouldn't say it really helped me decide a whole lot, but it was nice to be able to know what to expect, to know how things go there. Um, and then, so I was there for a week just visiting. And then I signed up to join the next year. This was a year before Father Bergman, so I joined a year before he did. I went down, and then, I guess I just kept staying there. My plan was to just basically stay at the seminary until I got kicked out because I didn't think I was gonna make it because I didn't think I was gonna pass any of the exams, basically. I thought, because I didn't really like reading that much, I wasn't really into studying. Um, so I didn't think that, it seemed the seminarians were all super smart to me and that there's no way I was going to be able to do that. So, but I thought, if it's God's will, then I'll stay. So my plan was to just stay. Um, and then, eventually I started doing better. The first year was not that great. I passed, but, But then I started getting better as time went on. I figured out how to study better and just got used to it. And then so I actually was doing a lot better in the classes towards the end. Um, but I'm not exactly sure when I knew that exactly that this was for me. Um, it took a couple years though. It wasn't like some people they know right away. You hear Bishop Dole and Father Chicata talk about how they knew when they were in fourth grade or something like that. It wasn't that case with me. Some people it is that they know, maybe they're there for a couple weeks and they know, or a year and they know. But for me, it did take a little longer for me to really realize. And it was kind of, little things that kind of confirmed me in that, um, like passing exams. There's a lot of times where I thought, it's like an important exam that you have to have, in the important exams, you have to have, a passing grade, obviously. And there were some of them that like, this is an important exam and I don't know how I'm going to pass this thing. But then either, I remembered stuff during the exam that I didn't think I knew, or, all the easy questions were picked. And so there was little things like that throughout my seminary that kind of, like, okay, I guess there was a lot of times I remember thinking like, oh, I guess this is for me because there's no way that would have worked if it's not. So that was kind of how it was for me. And then I just kept saying, then, subdiaconate was coming up, but that's the point where it's kind of you're set. And at that point I was like, okay, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. So but yeah, just it's, I guess some people it takes longer, I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, that's like a really cool story about how you got to your vocation. And I think it's crazy that three different religious we've had on the podcast have said that like at the time Father McGuire helped them determine their vocation. So I think that's just like that's kind of crazy to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. But I just always wanted to point out that it's not the same with everybody, because I was thinking, I was kind of pulled to that life, but not that strong, at least not that I could tell. And, so some people, it's not something that they're going to know right away. And, you have to, as Father McKenna says, you got to give it the old college tryout. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
some people it's that way. So.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Now we're wondering what was the hardest part about seminary?
Well, it seems that it's kind of the same with a lot of people. I guess not everybody, but I've heard a lot of people say that their hardest part was the homesickness. That was the case for me. I didn't really think that that would be a problem, because like I said, that last year I was working a lot, so I wasn't I wasn't really home that much. Um, I was always, going from one place to the next, one job to the next, and stuff like that. So I didn't really think that that would be too much of a problem for me, but it is. I think it's just, you know, obviously leaving people that and there were a couple people at the seminary when I joined that I knew. Um, one from one from Ohio. It wasn't Father Brueggen, it was someone else. And then there was somebody else that I had met because he was a seminarian for a year before me, and he came up to visit Ohio, and so I met him there, and so I did know some people there. I had obviously met all the priests down there before, so I knew people down there, but and then just leaving the whole way of life you had before is kind of it's a very different way of life. It takes you a little while to get used to it, and then for me being inside all the time, especially in Florida, yeah, it is pretty warm down there, but it looks nice. It's sunny almost every day and it looks nice outside. And, I always kind of have a problem, still a little bit have a problem with, when it's really nice outside, it's hard for me to do stuff inside. So it kind of was hard to uh you get used to that, being inside all the time. And then yeah, just the whole different way of life, studying and stuff like that. So that was difficult. And it seemed, the first eventually I guess I got over it, but every time we come back from a vacation, we go on Christmas vacation, come back, and it was kind of the same thing. It took me a little bit to get used to it again. And eventually it was easier, but it still was always kind of a thing. So I would say that's probably the hardest part, the homesickness and just, getting used to being there. As far as studies go, I would say that philosophy and theology are, difficult. Latin is also really hard,
Mhm.
especially for me. I did have a year of Latin before I went to the seminary, which was, a big help, um, because I kind of, I knew a little bit about it already. So I was in a class with people who hadn't taken any Latin yet. So it was a review for me the first year, which really helped because, I would have been pretty far behind probably otherwise. But so I would say, yeah, that was probably the hardest part.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. Leaving family is always very hard as well, I feel like for everybody really.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
yeah, this might be a little easier to answer. But what was the easiest part, would you say, about seminary?
Well, I guess I say the easiest part is going to bed at night. No problems there. Um, uh, no, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess I could say it got easier over time once you get used to the routine. Um, As far as things that that I liked, obviously I liked, playing soccer. I know, Gianna might have a problem with that, but that's, it was fun. It was always pretty rough and people got hurt a lot. But um then I also like I like the sacristy work. I was a sacristan for a while and I did like that too. Um the different jobs in the sacristy and and then there was other things, even things like sometimes doing the dishes in the evening was, because the other seminarians were, it was usually a pretty good group of people and they were, they had a good sense of humor and stuff like that, so sometimes that could be rather amusing. um I would say probably the easiest course would be sacred scripture for me. I always kind of like sacred scripture. And usually the professor was really good. As Father Fleece at the time, now Bishop Fleece, and he would always give us a break on that because he would always make the exam and it looked like it was going to be impossible to pass, but then he would change the way he asked the questions during the exam, so it was really easy. So I, thankful to him for that because it kind of made the course more enjoyable because you didn't expect him to do it every time he did it. It was kind of a surprise, but it was always a nice surprise. So it made learning the course, I think, for me a little easier and a little nicer because you weren't really too worried about it. So that's what
Mhm.
I would say about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I'm glad there's a lot of easy courses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because Bishop Fleece actually was my dad's catechism teacher for a while, or like there was this catechism group down in Florida my dad joined. And Bishop Fleece is very knowledgeable. Like he's
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
yeah, he's very up there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, he's also got a very strong accent.
Yeah, I guess we got used to that. It was a little interesting when he was teaching Latin because English is not his first language. So, teaching English speakers Latin sometimes was, a little interesting, but he knew Latin, really well, so it helps there, but
Mhm. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. That's good.
yeah.
Mhm. All right. So now we're wondering, what is your daily schedule as a priest?
Um, well, my daily schedule is kind of all over the place. We usually, so in the morning, that's usually the part that's always the same. So I get up, I get ready, and then I say my morning prayers and do my meditation, half an hour of half an hour of meditation, and so that part's always the same. I always make sure I get up with enough time to do that before I do anything else because otherwise it just doesn't happen. The meditation might work better for me in the evening or some other point in the day, but it's basically it's not going to happen if I don't do it in the morning. So I always do that in the morning. After that, it depends if I'm here, and I'm saying one of morning masses. We have, 7 and 8 o'clock mass most or a lot of the days. And if I'm saying one of those, then, I'll get ready for that too, make sure things are ready for that. Usually Father Bergman takes care of all like the setup stuff. But so then I'll say mass after mass, do some prayers if I haven't, depending on where I am in the divine office, I'll say some divine office. And then after for the rest of the day, it's kind of just, I guess whatever, responding to people, um, taking, preparing for my next mission trip. That's a lot goes into that. Um, Seeing, what the bishop has, if he has anything for me to do, doing, I have some different jobs around the church here that I do, and, doing those, and then, you know, helping see if, what we have for dinner and getting that ready. Um, so that's kind of how it goes here. And then we have, Vespers and evening meal in the evening. When I'm on the missions, it's just kind of all over the place. Depends on, when my flight is, how long I have to drive. So it kind of, that doesn't, So as far as like having a daily schedule, basically my daily schedule is just the morning. And after that, it kind of changes every day. So.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Priests have
Hmm.
very busy schedules from
Mm,
what I
Oh
hear,
yeah.
so
mm,
it makes sense. But what
mm.
kind of what kind of things do you have to do to prepare for a mission? Like, driving?
Um, washing your clothes. So yeah, your clothes. Um, and then if I have to figure out, what if there's any special ceremony that's coming up. So like this weekend I'm going to be doing the blessing of throats at I'm going to Texas. I'm going to be doing the blessing of throats there for Feast of Saint Blaise, which was this past week. And so I got to remember to bring the candles for that. So that's one thing. Sometimes, I have baptisms to do or other things like that. So I got to make sure I have the stuff for that. Then, booking flights or rental cars or whatever, letting people know what time my flight is if I have a flight. And then, you know, um, trying to work on the sermon. Usually it doesn't get started when it should, but I also try to start that earlier because sometimes, in the missions, you might have your flight might get delayed or something might happen and you don't, you basically get there just in time. And, some people can come up with sermon on the fly, but usually that doesn't work too well for me. So I try to have at least, something started so that if, I get backed up with a bunch of other things, at least I have something kind of ready. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So we heard you do some garden work at St. Gertrude the Great. So how is that?
I mean, I don't know about gardening. I don't do that much of that. I mean, I'll do some stuff in the flower beds every once in a while, I guess. Um, I think um I kind of do more maintenance stuff, I think is what it is, and that happened to be, whoever you heard that from, that well, was one of the things I was doing at the time. But yeah, so I try to do, upkeep of the building because, there's a lot of things that just haven't been maintained. And so at this point, I'm kind of just trying to figure out all the problems with the building and how things were made and stuff like that. So I can, in it, so I can, if there's a problem, then I can either try to, I'll look into fixing it myself if I can, or try and find somebody to call to fix it. We have some leaks around here that I've been, water is an escape artist. I don't know how it manages to come in, but it's always seems to find a way. So those are always interesting to find out where it's coming in and trying to figure out how to stop it from coming in. It's very persistent though. So but yeah, that's kind of what I do. And as far as gardening, I mean, I do like gardening. Actually, my confirmation name is Isidore, after Isidore the farmer, because, um, at the time when I was, 7 or whatever, when I was confirmed, I really liked farming. So my family always had a garden, and I do like that too. And then working on the dairy farm, there was some of that involved. So I I do like gardening stuff like that. So,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
That seems fun. My
Yeah.
brother Elias, he really wants a farm when he gets older and is able to pay for it, move out of the house, because he's obsessed with animals and he loves gardening. In fact, he actually was planting some watermelons this summer. I think he actually showed you those.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
I saw him.
yeah, and he got mad because the turkeys ended up eating them in the backyard. So
What?
he was very excited for Thanksgiving this year, or last
Hmm.
year, whatever. So,
To eat the
uh,
turkeys.
but
Boy.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Well, speaking of watermelon, my uncle actually tried to grow some in our backyard, like, I don't know, probably 10 years ago. And he would like come over like every day, 2 times, like in the middle of work. Like he would leave his job to come like water these watermelon. And then I think he might have gotten a couple, but I think they just ended up dying because there wasn't enough sun or something. But yeah, I just remember him like coming home from work, like in his like fancy clothes, just like watering some watermelon. But yeah, it was pretty funny.
Well, they do need a lot of water. It's kind of in their
That's true.
name, so,
Yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah. That'd be interesting to taste. A melon that's not watery. That's not really refreshing in the summertime.
I think I
Yeah.
probably have tasted one of those. It's kind of like cardboard, you know.
Oh no,
Oh man.
It's-
that's gross. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
the water.
Yep. All right. So now we're wondering, how do you like get your inspiration for sermons? Because to me, I feel like writing sermons would be like the hardest thing in the world because I'm not creative at all. So I just like, I don't know how you guys do it.
Yeah, about that. Um, that's I've actually kind of been wondering that myself. So if you could, if you find out, if you could let me know, be nice. Um, no, sermons are, for me, they're always kind of difficult. Some people, it's not a problem, but it's funny how things work out because um, so I didn't think too much about sermons when I was in the seminary. Obviously, I knew that it was one of those things that you do as a priest, but I didn't really think there would be a problem. I just thought, you know, just for whatever reason, I didn't think about it. And I think part of the reason was because when I was in the seminary, there was two things that I thought were most difficult that I wouldn't be able two jobs basically that I thought I'd never be able to do. Cantor for the martyrology for that's part of the Divine Office of Prime. Um, it's the list of all the martyrs that died. They do it a day in advance, so all the martyrs that died the next day. And some of those people, especially time of Diocletian, they have really weird names, and they were martyred in really weird places by people with weird names. So there's a lot of hard names to pronounce in Latin, and I just thought there's no way I'd be able to sing that. Also, you have the seminary professors all there, your Latin teachers sitting there, and they all have a copy of it in Latin, so they're all, they know when you messed it up. So I thought
Yeah.
there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. The other thing that I thought I wouldn't be able to do is sacristan because the sacristan that takes kind of a lot of time, and as much as I would have let I thought it would be a nice job, but there's just it takes so much time. I wouldn't have enough time to study if I was sacristan. Well, halfway through my first year I became the sacristan, um, and then the beginning of my second year I became the cantor as well, and so I was singing the Martyr. So I was doing both of them
Wow.
at the same time. And then,
Wow.
a little later, I became in charge of the school when the seminarians would sing on Sunday. So I was doing all of those. And so after that, I thought, okay, well, you know, obviously, priesthood is more difficult, but I think I could probably take whatever comes. So I didn't really think about, sermons too much. It's something I just deal with at the time. But I guess to answer the question, during if it's a weekday sermon, usually Butler's Lives of the Saints or Life of the Saint or Matins. That's another part of the divine office that it has a little story about the saint. So I get, some inspiration from there. Um, or whatever I used for meditation that morning. Sometimes something comes up from there. Um, Sunday sermons, or like a big feast day sermon. Sometimes those take a little longer. Well, those take a little longer to prepare. And I have some sermon books written by there's some Saint Alphonsus and some other um, more recent even books about talking about the gospel of the day or something like that that I can kind of pull some stuff from. Um, and maybe there's something that I came across or something that I'd like to talk about. But yeah, it kind of depends, and it's kind of different every time. But yeah, they are, it is something that I have a little trouble with.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from all of the sermons that I've listened to of yours, they've all been great. So,
Yeah.
Oh, thank
I
you.
like the advice in them and everything.
Yeah.
So, you do a great job.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I feel like whenever I hear like any SGG priest sermons, it's always like about something I'm struggling with like in that moment of my life that I'm hearing it. And it just
Yes.
always blows my mind. Like even when you gave a sermon like the last time you were here, so was that a week ago? Or
Yeah, a week ago
yeah,
today.
okay. Yeah, I was struggling really hard with like what you were talking about and then I was just mind blown. I don't know how you guys
Yeah.
do it. Like it's just
Well, I think that's just the Holy Ghost. That's how that works because that happens a lot that happened to me a lot, with sermons too, and that's just the Holy Ghost, and you know, that's why you don't have to, there are, orators and people who spent, a lot of time figuring out how to speak publicly and all of this stuff, and they learn all of this stuff about public speaking. And then you have the priest who does a lot of public speaking, and he, maybe I didn't have a class for that in the seminary. Sometimes they do give those. If you're having trouble with it, they'll give you a class on that. But, we didn't have anything like that. So how to learn how to do that stuff, and then that it's effective in the way that it is. I think it's mostly from the Holy Ghost because, like I said, it's not it's not much that I did. So.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
it's definitely from the Holy Ghost, or like what Father McKenna said. I think he said this when he was on our podcast one time. He said, "Look, we don't put cameras in your homes, okay? We
yeah.
just no, that's not what happens." But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the joke in my family that like you guys have cameras in our house, you know
Yeah.
exactly what to talk about. But yeah.
No. Hmm.
so I kind of already asked you this question at the beginning, but what is it like traveling so much? And do you have a favorite mission that you stop at?
Um, well, yeah, like I said, I like to traveling actually. Flying is one thing. It's always kind of I don't know. I mean, the actual part in the plane is fine. It's just all the getting to the plane part that's kind of a problem. Um, if anybody, if you've ever flown before, you kind of know this. Like all the security and stuff like that can be kind of tiring after a while. But that's one thing. I actually like the long drives. A lot of people don't, but I really like those. And then, like I said, being working with a mechanic for a while, all the different cars that I get to drive sometimes, pretty nice. So
Yeah.
I look forward to that too. As far as the missions themselves go, I like all of them. I have to say that my favorite one was a place that I went to say mass in South Texas. Um, it's not really one of our missions though, so I wouldn't really include it in there. I just went there once to for that. More like a vacation, I think. Uh, but as far as like the missions that we do regularly, I just say that I like all of them. I like going to all of them. I look forward to going to all of them and to seeing the people from all of them. I'd rather not really say which one I like best. Nobody feels bad. I don't even know actually which one I like the best. There are some that I like more than others, I think. Um, but of all of them, I'm always edified by the devotion of the people, especially some of those, who come from far, far away to go to, mass. And, it's one thing coming far away to go to mass, like here at St. Gertrude's. If you have to drive an hour, hour and a half, or we have some people that drive 2 hours, but you're coming to a church building, that has, this I guess would be this kind of the same in Milwaukee as well at St. Hugh. They have a choir and a high mass, and it's established. They have other people there at St. Gert. Like here we have coffee and donuts after mass and socializing and stuff like that. So there's they're coming for there's other things. Obviously the main reason is mass, but then some of these places, like somebody who drives like over an hour to go to mass in a hotel meeting room, with 10 other people there, they're only coming for mass. And that's really edifying to me to see that, their devotion to the mass is, because there's no other reason for them to come but just for the mass. So that's always and then the people who only get mass once a month, they have to try and figure out how to remain Catholics through the whole rest of the month until they get the mass again. And you know and then to see the devotion of those people when they do get the mass, it's like, you know a lot of people that get mass really often, they start taking it for granted, but these other people, they don't. So that's always edifying. That's something that comes from the mission. That's a part that I really like about the mission. So but I like it. And I also like, it's a bummer for the people that they have to live so far away from a church, and, they only get mass once a month. But, for me, it's nice because places like Park Falls, Wisconsin, Minot, North Dakota, and El Paso, Texas, I would never be going to those places if there weren't people there. So I get to go to these places and see these places that I wouldn't, get to see otherwise. And then, I get to drive across North Dakota, which a lot of people say is terrible, but I actually like it. So,
Oh,
Really?
okay. That's
That
good.
yeah.
is that's like
So,
wow.
yeah.
What do you like about driving across North Dakota? Because I've done it before and it's just flat and boring the whole time.
Well, you don't, you just get to look at fields and that sort of thing. And that's it seems it's really peaceful up there. There's no traffic. So you're just you and the road and God's creation. There's no, subdivisions and big stores and cities and stuff like that. So it's really, it's a good, I think it takes about 3.5 hours. It's a good 3.5 hours of just like peace to yourself, basically. So, I like it.
Yeah, that I guess that does make sense.
That's a good way to look at it. Next
Yeah.
time we go up there, I'll be sure to think about that.
Hmm.
That way,
Yeah.
maybe the drive will be a little more enjoyable then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a few seconds maybe, and then and
Yeah.
then you'll be over that, and then it'll be boring again. But
Yep.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yep.
Well, with my attention span, definitely.
Oh
It's
yeah.
very short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So now we were wondering, like, would you say in the airports and stuff on planes, like, people treat you differently because you're a priest, or would you say they just like treat you the same?
Um, Generally, people are pretty nice, actually. I get more people than I think, than I would have thought, rather, that are, nice and know that I am a priest. I get people saying, good morning, Father, and stuff like that. Um, I do get, there's quite a bit of that. So um, it is interesting. And usually people are nice. I haven't really got anybody that was, not nice or anything like that. Sometimes people give you kind of a look like, what is this guy doing? But I, usually no. And then, yeah, so they're pretty nice. So
Mhm.
That's
it's,
good.
That's good.
there's still some faith in the world, I guess.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
I remember hearing stories from Bishop Dolan when he would come up to my church. He would go around the neighborhood saying his rosary, and there's a lot of Hispanic people in the neighborhood. Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's terrifying, but he would go around doing that. And since the Hispanic people all have like that Mexican Catholic background, like
Hmm.
they know who he is, sort of thing. And he would get people coming up and just talking to him, like, or like,
Yeah.
oh, how are you doing, Your
Yeah.
Excellency, or something like that. And and there was actually this one story too, where Bishop McGuire actually became friends with a drug dealer. Uh,
Yeah, I heard that one.
yeah, it was that was interesting. I,
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
but yeah,
Well, yeah, it's always I'm edified at up there at St. Hugh too, and we do the procession, the 13th, the Fatima Rosary processions up there, and you'll get people coming out on their porch holding their rosary, or people that drive by make the sign of the cross or something like that, and you know it's that's around here, maybe you get people honking their horn, or you might get people throwing stuff at you. But you know,
yeah,
up there, most usually they're actually pretty respectful towards the faith. So
that's
for all
really good.
how rough it is up there, they are usually pretty respectful. So
Yeah.
That is good. Yeah. Now, I was wondering, do you have any like traveling stories about like going on planes and stuff, or like any funny stories or anything like that?
not really. I guess I haven't been doing it long enough. It's weird that I've only met somebody that I know in the airport once. Um, and all the traveling that I do, I like hardly ever see anybody that I know. But as far as like, usually I don't, not there's not too much going on. I miss flights and stuff like that. Well, flights get canceled. I actually haven't missed a flight myself. Um, we'll see what happens tomorrow. I got flight to Texas tomorrow,
Oh.
but let's see if I miss it now. But but there was a couple times. There was once where it was before actually I was a priest. I was flying back to the seminary for the beginning of my second year in the seminary, and there was some Protestant lady that came up to me and wanted to try to, convert me to Protestantism. And I had been going to like an apologetics class. So at they had catechism classes at the church on Sunday, and the what we were doing that time was my dad was actually teaching an apologetics class, and so. I had been going to that, and so I had remembered some of that stuff, but she kind of didn't really answer any of the questions, and she just kind of kept going around it. So I was lucky for me, my plane was boarding, so I could get out of it. But because I could kind of
Mhm.
tell she wasn't really interested in listening to anything that I had to say. Um, but that was like my first experience with something like that, and I'd never really okay, so I was. You know working with before I went to the seminary. I didn't really talk to many people like that. And then I was in seminary for a year, which you see just seminarians basically and priests for a whole year. And then having this and like trying to figure out how to talk to somebody, that was kind of so above the fact that, I was trying to, defend the faith, I was just trying to get used to talking to somebody. So it was a very good scenario, but you know,
Mhm.
and then other than that, I had once a few months ago, um, I had a pilot actually in the airport. He asked it, he recognized that I was a priest and he asked which diocese I'm from. They always like to ask that. So you kind of have to, well, we're not part of a diocese. And a lot of times they're like, oh, okay. And then they just go on. But he was saying, so he was trying to figure out, I could tell he knew a little bit about, some stuff, and he was, I guess a conservative Novus Ordo or something like that. And so I said, well, he said, so you're not under a bishop? I said, well, we're not part of the Novus Ordo. We're not part of the, that. And so I said, so you don't recognize Francis as the Pope? And I said, no. And so then he got pretty mad, and he was like, how can you justify this? And I was like, sheesh. Um, so I think it was a pretty early flight, and luckily, he had to go one way and I had to go another, um, because he had to go get his coffee. So I was just thinking, okay, probably he just didn't have his coffee yet, and that's why he's a little annoyed.
Yeah.
But he was on the same flight as me. He wasn't the pilot of the plane, thankfully, but he
Good.
was on the same flight as me. But so luckily we weren't sitting next to each other because that could have gotten interesting. But I get better, I have gotten better at, dealing with stuff like that. At the beginning, I was always like, I didn't want anybody to talk to me because I was afraid that, not so much because I was worried about myself, but just because I was afraid that I would say something that would turn somebody off from the faith and then they wouldn't want to, pursue the faith anymore. So that's kind of what I was worried about. But after, a while of doing it, you just kind of get used to, there's only so many questions that people ask and, you know, so it's not really that bad anymore. But yeah,
Mhm.
I don't really have that many stories about traveling yet. So we'll see what
Yeah.
happens in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. Even like going back to like the Protestant, you said that was like trying to
Yeah.
convert you or whatever. I have a friend
Yeah.
who works at Chick-fil-A and like Chick-fil-A is known for being like kind of like that, Christian
Hmm.
Protestant place. And
Yeah.
he says he has a coworker who was like full-blown Protestant and like every customer he's just like trying to convert them to like Protestantism. And I'm like, what? Like what is
Yeah.
even okay. I can't understand that, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the things that you cannot talk about with other people are religion and politics. That will start a fight. That will
Yep.
start a lot right there.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is sports. If you
Oh
know,
yeah.
when I never noticed that before myself because we didn't really watch, sports that much. I always like playing them, but we didn't really watch them that much. So, I'd get, a hat or something like that, a shirt perhaps, and I'd be in a store and somebody said, "Oh, you're a fan of these people." And I'm like, I guess so. I'm wearing their shirt. I don't know anything about like but
Yeah.
what do they play? So,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, those both can start riots. I mean, okay, for the longest time, I only knew people who lived in Wisconsin. So I was like, oh, um, pretty much everyone I knew was like a Packers fan or like Brewers fan for like baseball and football. And then I started meeting people outside different states, especially people who were really into sports. And I would bring up like, oh yeah, my brothers really like this team. And they're like, what? What do you mean? And then they just like yeah, it was a whole thing. I'm like, okay, I won't talk about this anymore. I'm sorry I brought it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was one time my uncle, I think he got like a free like Dolphins hat like from like the NFL or whatever, and he was going on a walk with his dog and this guy like stopped him and like started just like full-blown ranting about like how great the Dolphins were and like all their quarterbacks, blah blah blah, everything. And my uncle's a Vikings fan, so he was just like sitting there like, mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was going on for like a long time too. I was like, I don't that would be horrible
Oh,
to do.
no. Oh, yeah. Those are interesting conversations you have with different people.
Yeah.
Turns off friendships and everything. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah. So, stepping aside from that a little bit, um, so we heard you were in Mexico recently with Bishop McGuire. Do you have any stories from that?
Um, Not as many as I thought I would. It was definitely interesting to be in the different culture. Um, it wasn't that different though from some of the places I've been. Like I said, El Paso, Texas is, I mean, even the name is, in Spanish. So, it's a lot of Mexicans there, Mexican culture kind of there. And then, Milwaukee too, actually, because there's so many Mexicans there. That's kind of, there's a lot of places in Mexico that are like that. Not in terms of, climate, but
Yeah.
it's pretty warm down there when we went down. But so I was kind of used to that, and then I've had, a bunch of Mexican food before. But I mean, the food was good. But then Yeah, so but it was interesting, traveling, around through there and meeting different people and, listening to people speak in Spanish, which you can't understand. I mean, I can get some of it, but not very much. So that was kind of interesting. We did so we consecrated, the bishop consecrated 4 altar stones when he was there, and that's kind of an interesting ceremony. The sisters in Florida, they had their church consecrated, and part of doing a church is consecrating the altar. So they had that ceremony in the consecration of the church. So, but we just did it, as a separate ceremony just for the altar stones, and it takes quite a while. We had 4 of them, so it takes longer because of that. But it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting ceremony. And there's um you have to put incense on little incense grains on the altar stones at one point, and then put little wax tapers on top of them and light them. So it's like, in 5 different places. So it kind of lit the altar stones on fire. And so it can, so that was interesting. We also did, the bishop did 95 confirmations down there. Not all at one time.
Okay.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
He did 30, 35, I think 30, 30, either 30 or 35 in one place. And the other place he did 60 or 65. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, those
Okay.
those took a while too. And after the place where we did 65, I think it was 65, at the end, of course, they all wanted to take a picture, so we were all lined up in the church for the picture, and they had all the people in there for the picture. And but after that, so when we were processing out, they started singing. It's kind of a Mexican, I think. I think it comes from the Cristeros. Tu Reñarás is the name of the song. It's almost like a march. It's a hymn to Christ the King, and it's about his reign and how he, should be the king. So it's a pretty great song in itself. And then the other priest, so I was the MC, I was holding the bishop's cope on one side, and then one of the other priests that was down there, he was holding the cope on the other side. He's from Mexico. And so they did the first verse, and then he started yelling "Viva Cristo Rey," which is basically "Long live Christ the King," um, at the top of his lungs. He did it 3 times, and then all the people in the church would respond, and that was pretty crazy. It's like being in a battle, like before a battle, when the general is like, getting the soldiers ready to, ready to go for the battle. So that was pretty pretty
Yeah.
crazy. And then they continued the song after that. I would say that was probably one of the best best parts about being down there.
Mhm.
Uh, we also went to see a volcano. There's a volcano that's down there, an active volcano. We didn't see it erupting while we were there, but they say, I believe it's every week, a little bit comes out of it. So, um, but it's not, I mean, the thing is about 2 miles tall. So nothing ever gets down to where people are, but it was pretty impressive, and it's amazing, to see stuff like that. And you just, I don't know if, when you see, some, like a mountain that's that big, it really reminds you of the power of God that God has. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know.
That's crazy. Yeah,
Mhm.
those are some cool stories. I mean,
Yeah.
Also, another thing, so we have deer crossing signs, like on the highway and stuff like that.
Mhm.
They have, I think it's leopard crossing signs. So, like, look out, there might be I guess they're not stopping here. Okay. I
yeah,
actually heard
no,
a
I
joke
can't do
about that.
that.
So I heard a joke about that. Um,
Oh,
somebody said, there was one of those deer crossing signs, and there was like a lot of places where, you know, the deer had gotten hit there, and people could see that there was a lot of like roadkill around there. And the person said they should really not put this deer crossing sign. It's really not safe for them to cross here. It's like it's a
Yeah.
sign for the deer telling them this is where to cross.
yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, that is, speaking of deer, I have to tell this story. So there's a family at our parish who was driving down to SGG actually, and I think it was pretty early in the morning, and I'm probably gonna get this story wrong, but they were driving and they like hit a deer really hard and it like ripped off like an entire chunk of their car. It was so bad. So like once I got back from Ohio or whatever, they like pulled into our chapel and we were all just like staring in shock at their car. It is so bad. And I think they're finally like just getting it fixed like this week. So it was they were just driving around with like half their car missing. Not half, but it was it was really bad.
Yeah.
So
Wow. That's what a deer can do to your car. What can a leopard do to your
oh
car?
yeah.
Now I'm
Well,
concerned.
hopefully less damage if you're going fast enough. If you're
Yeah.
going slow and you just hit him and make him mad, um, I don't know, but yeah.
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 No, actually, no.
Wow. All right, so this is the dumbest question by far. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Okay, so well, I've heard this one because I listened to your other podcast. So I've heard this one and I was, preparing my answer. Um I figured it was coming. So when I grew up, the only because when we were little, pepperoni was too spicy for us. So the only pizza we had was pineapple pizza. So that was the standard pizza. When I got older, then we had pepperoni later. So and other kinds later, but still, still in my head, like pineapple is like the standard pizza. So yes, I like it.
Yes,
Okay,
that
The
is
okay,
a
good.
normal.
great answer. I love that. It's I have so many friends who hate pineapple on pizza. Like for example, Francis, shout out if you're listening. Um, so for his birthday, his mom made them pineapple on pizza because they wanted to try it, and he said it was super gross, but he still ate it anyways. And I was like, "What? What is wrong with you? Like
Yeah.
pineapple on pizza is my favorite food ever." Like, and their family's coming to visit us pretty soon. Well, in June, I guess. So I want my mom to make pineapple on pizza so bad, or just like homemade pizza one night. But I don't think I'll be that cruel and make him eat it again. But yeah.
It's funny because for the longest time I never had tried pineapple pizza. Like I think the first time I tried it was maybe in 2021, so only a few years ago. Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna try this." I've never tried it before because my uncle was like, "Oh, you should put some pineapple on there." So I started eating it. I'm like, "This is actually really good." And then
Yeah.
ever
Yeah.
since then, I've been so attached to it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Every time we get pizza, it has to be pineapple on pizza. Like it's just, and my mom's really obsessed with it. So when I was a kid, I probably just liked it because like my mom liked it and I wanted to be like
Mm.
her. But now I actually like it. Like, oh, it is so good. But yeah.
yeah. Yeah, but I'm glad you listened to our other podcast so you're prepared for this question because
Yes.
we've
Yeah.
had some
That was the
pretty
only
harsh
reason.
answers.
No,
Yeah, I
no.
think one of the times we actually made a little girl upset because she
We
said she
did.
didn't like it. Yeah.
Oh.
Um, that was not a good day for us. We had to cut some parts out of that
Yeah,
one.
because she was like, "Oh yeah, I don't like pineapple on pizza," and we were like, "Okay, you're off the podcast," like as a joke. But
Oh.
she thought we were serious, and I was like, "No, no, it's just a joke. We're just kidding." But yeah, so we're way too passionate about food.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, so, do you have any hidden talents?
um, well, if I told you they wouldn't be hidden.
That's
Fair
true.
enough.
I don't really I don't really know. Like I said, the mechanic that I worked for, he said that I had a talent for that stuff. Um, I guess, I guess so. I mean, I do like fixing stuff. I still like fixing stuff. I was just working on my sister's car the other day. So I still do stuff like that. Every once in a while, people ask me questions about stuff. I have some parishioners asking me questions. Oh, so I'm having this problem with my car. What do you think it is? So, um, but I mean, I really like that, and fixing things like that. And there's still a couple, you know, um, cases where, I would take one of the church cars here to the mechanic shop, and, I tell them it has this problem and they can't find out what's wrong with it. So I look at it myself and I'm like, oh, it's this. And then I either fix it or tell them, like, this is the problem. So, I don't have that much experience with it, but I don't know. Somehow, I guess, like, I guess you could consider that a talent. But
Mhm.
other than that, not. I mean, I can play. I like playing sports. I never was on a team for anything, thankfully, probably because I hear that um, it can get kind of rough. But um, but yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it
That's
was
cool.
funny. When my brothers were at nights, my dad was like so impressed by like how athletic your entire family is. Like he was like, "What do they drink in their water out there? Like they're all just so good at sports." But
Yeah.
and I think you forgot to add that you're extremely good at banjo. Whenever Father
Um,
Simpson comes up, we always make him play banjo for us.
yeah. Yeah, well, with that, I mean, for how long I've been playing it, which is almost 10 years now, I sh probably should be a little better. And I'm actually not, I mean, the thing is, it works out nicely for me because I'm the only one that you've heard play the banjo. If you would have heard somebody else play the banjo, you would realize that, I'm not actually that great. Um, but because it's really, I mean, and even with that, it's a talent. So, everybody has different talents. Like I tried playing the piano for a little while and I just didn't really like it that much. When I got the guitar, then I really liked that. And then, I like the banjo even more. So I think that helps you to learn stuff if you really like what it is. And so that's why, it helps you to progress. And especially in instruments, it helps you to progress in that area if you really like it, because you're willing to spend the time, to go through it. But, I think instruments are great, just in themselves, and I always like playing instruments. Usually ones with strings, and I haven't really played. I tried playing the trumpet a little bit, and it's kind of painful, but but I like things with strings like that. It's always fun, and I think it's a good pastime too. It keeps you out of trouble and stuff to have an instrument to learn,
Mhm.
and to play. So, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. My brother plays trumpet, and there have been times where he'll be like trying to work on like this one note, and his face just goes like really red, and because he's just blowing so hard. And I'm like, yeah, that looks really painful. And then he asked me to try it one time, and I tried it. It was not working well for me. Like I was not getting anything out. Like you couldn't hear anything coming out of the other end of the trumpet. Um, so
Yeah.
it's very difficult. You need to have a talent to be able to do
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite, like, this is kind of random, but my favorite instrument joke, like, anyone ever told me was one time Father Simpson was up, and I think my mom or my dad was like, "Well, what's the difference between a violin and a fiddle?" And Father Simpson was like, "Well, a violin has strings and a fiddle has strings." And my dad, like, still tells people that, like, when they ask the difference. So it's just stuck with my family.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that with I think mostly about banjos. Like one of them is that what's the difference between a banjo and a trampoline? And it's, well, you take your shoes off to jump on the trampoline.
Yeah.
Not to jump on the banjo, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
that wouldn't end so well for the banjo.
No, which is a sad story because I don't know, I like him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah.
All right, so moving on. You said you grew up at SGG, so we were wondering, did you like sing in the choir at all at SGG growing up?
Yeah, I did a little bit. I was usually involved with serving more. The other thing was they had mostly, it was pretty much an adult choir at the time. Um, I guess, they didn't really have younger people in there at the beginning. And so it was kind of, they did have some, and then the other thing was my dad was basically the only other male in the choir at the time.
Mhm.
So actually, I think we had some. My dad sings tenor. There were some people that sang bass on and off. Um, Basically, so I would just, I guess, sing with my dad. When I was in there. So I was in there for a little bit. I was in the schola for when I was there, but it was kind of it wasn't very long because I was kind of involved in serving, and then I went to the seminary. So. Um, So it wasn't that much. I would say probably I was more, I guess I was in the serving more than in the choir. So that's why I kind of didn't end up going to the choir, as much, but I was in there a little bit. And then in the seminary I was in the choir, so I guess they figured. I think the only reason I had to sing so much there is because I was just a little better than the other people. And not that I was good myself. It's just that, you know. So um but
Yeah.
I mean I like singing. I do like singing, so
That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, otherwise it'd be kind of um not enjoyable to be in the choir then.
Yeah. Yeah, it does help in this line of work that I'm in, when singing it, I usually end up getting, the a lot of the singing parts for stuff like during Holy Week, singing the Exultet on Holy Saturday, singing other things, sing the Passion and, other things like that, things that require singing. They usually put me down for those. So I guess, because I wouldn't really say that I can sing that well myself, but apparently somebody else thinks so. So as long as, they're okay with it,
Yeah.
yeah, actually, another part about the missions and traveling that I forgot, I've actually learned to sing a lot better since doing that because, you're in the car by yourself and it's a good time to practice singing. Nobody can hear you if you mess up. So
That's true.
Yeah.
so I actually, I think I got a little better at singing from that. Because I can practice, by myself, and that's so far that's been the only thing. Like if I'm really tired, that's the only thing that keeps me awake, is singing. Everything else, if I'm really tired, I'll still start falling asleep. But singing always keeps me awake. So, yeah,
That's
Wow,
good.
that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
You don't want to roll off to the side while you're driving or anything.
yeah.
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 Although, like you said, when you were going through North Dakota, maybe you could roll off to the side and not hit
You
anybody.
you
I mean,
could, yeah. It might have to wait for a tow truck in some places to get
uh,
you back onto the road, but yeah, you probably wouldn't hit anything, at
Nah,
least for a
you,
few miles.
yeah,
yeah.
you might hit like a hay bale or something.
Oh,
Other
yeah,
than that,
maybe.
nothing.
Yeah. What would you say is your favorite church song? Like song to sing in church, I guess.
Um, well, that's kind of difficult because I like a lot of them. I would say probably Let All Mortal Flesh Keep Silence. That one is when that one's done by like full choir with organ, that song is really good. Um, it always kind of gives you the chills, listen, at least me, given that. There's also a song, I don't know what it's actually called. I think somebody wrote words for it. It's called Hail Glorious Saint Patrick. So obviously we sing it on St. Patrick's Day. Um, Again, I don't know what the actual, I think somebody wrote the words and put them to it. So I don't know what the actual name of it is. Somebody told me what it was before. I like that one a lot. And then there's, Puri Concinite, there's another great one, March of the Kings. Those are both Christmas songs. I like those, but there's a lot of great ones, so it's kind of hard to tell.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I've been listening to more of those of the church songs recently, and I was like, wow, I know so many of them now. And
Mm.
literally every single one of those that you mentioned, I did not know. So I still have
Yeah.
to look up some few,
Yeah,
listen to a
Yeah.
few
yeah.
more. But yeah, I know there are some church songs that we'll sing, and it just gives you the chills. Like it's really
Mm.
Hmm.
good as in, yeah.
Well, De
Yeah.
Profundis is another one. That's
Oh, that one I do know.
Yeah, yeah.
That one's good.
But
Yeah.
I get kind of spoiled because the choir at St. Gertrude's right now, usually most of the way that they do stuff, the way the organ accompaniment, the parts, having the full choir with, soprano, alto, tenor, bass, and then the way they do stuff is usually the best that I've heard. Like I try to find, I think they sing something, oh wow, that sounded really good. I'll just find a recording of that online because I like that song. And I can never find something that sounds close.
Yeah.
It sounds there's some stuff that sounds okay, but the way they do stuff here seems always to be like the best. Maybe, and part of that could just be because I'm hearing it in person. It's always different when you're hearing a recording, but um so it could be that I'm hearing it in person and that's why, but even when I go back and listen to the recordings of stuff here, it's still like, I don't um yeah, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely
yeah.
a lot better in person. Like,
Yeah.
I really like it when I'm at church and then I can hear the choir singing all these songs and I'm like, wow, that's really pretty. And
Yeah.
then it's different on recording. Like,
Yeah.
it's so much better when you're actually there and you have the scene of the church, like the whole visual, and then you hear the
Mhm.
songs and it's just really peaceful and yeah. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the first time I walked into like SGG and they started singing, like all of my siblings instantly like turned and looked at the choir because they just sounded so good. All
yeah.
right, so moving on. Who is your favorite saint?
Um, okay. I would say with that, obviously, Saint Joseph and Our Lady, they're great just because. Um, but as far as like patron saints, um, I would say I like Saint Thomas More because, well, he's my patron saint, my name saint, and Saint Monica. I guess kind of for a similar reason, because they both. It seems that they're easier to imitate for us, because I read the Life of Saint Monica, and then I read Life of Saint Thomas More too, but also the movie Man for All Seasons. It kind of shows that he's, in both of them, they're trying to get to heaven. Obviously, that's their goal, but they they seem to have a lot of like the same problems and concerns that we would have. They're also, struggling in this life. I mean, they weren't sinners or anything like that. They were both very virtuous, and I believe St. Thomas More wore the hair shirt and stuff like that. So, a little beyond our level, but it didn't seem like they were like, like Saint Aloysius Gonzaga or Saint John Chrysostom. We were both also great saints, but it seems like they kind of were saints right from the beginning and they didn't really have to, you know, virtue came easy to them. Everybody kind of knew that they were saints. Whereas these other ones, they were kind of, Saint Thomas More, I think it was in the book too. I know it's in the movie, but I think it was in the book I read too, where he tells his wife, she's worried that he's gonna, because St. Thomas More is, he's not going along with King Henry VIII. King Henry VIII, he left his wife and wanted to get married to somebody else. And St. Thomas More, being Catholic, said, no, I can't agree with that. And so King Henry VIII was kind of mad at him for it. And so St. Thomas More's wife was worried that, he was gonna, get in trouble and get killed and uh, for disobeying the king and not going along with this. And he told her, he said, don't worry, this, pointing to himself, he said, this is not the stuff that martyrs are made of. He's like, he didn't have that, he didn't think, there's any way that I could go through that. Which is, kind of comforting for us because I mean, most of us, we don't think that either. We're like, yeah, there's no way I could do that. So knowing that, some of the saints or probably most of them, but were that way too. Like, I don't think I can go through that. But then, lo and behold, he was a martyr, and
Mhm.
he was so calm at the time that he was even joking with the executioner when um when he was killed. He said he asked the executioner because he was beheaded, and at the time he was in prison for a while, so he had a pretty long beard. And so he said he asked the executioner if he could spare his beard because he said his beard didn't disobey the king. So can you not don't wreck my beard, please? Uh,
That is,
so you see that level of confidence,
Yeah.
yeah, that would not be going on in my head if I was getting murdered. I mean, first off, I wouldn't have a beard, but it would just, yeah, that wow.
Yeah, so that's why I kind of, and I'm sure there's more saints that are like that too. It's just I have trouble remembering about the saints, which is kind of a bummer, in terms of giving sermons and stuff because Bishop Dolan, he could just, kind of just give a sermon on the fly about the saint of the day, because he knew, everything about the saint of the day already. Um, I can't retain any of that stuff. I read, stuff about saints and stuff. Even, it's funny, like I'll give a sermon on the saint of the day, and then, so I've been a priest for almost 3 years now. So then, like the next year, that saint's feast will come up, and I'll be, reviewing his life to, working on a sermon. And I'm thinking, if this sounds a little bit familiar, and then, I'll go back and look, and yeah, I gave a sermon on this saint before. And I'm like, oh, wow, it's like I didn't even. So yeah, maybe it just takes time. Maybe after, 10 or 15 years of doing it, I'll start remembering them. But
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Another
Yeah.
one, another one is the Little Flower, Saint Therese.
Oh.
She helped me out a lot in the seminary, getting through classes and stuff.
Mm.
And she's also the patron saint of seminarians, I believe, and clergy. So, but my first mass actually was a votive mass of Saint Therese. So kind of repay
Oh,
her a little
wow.
bit for
Yeah.
Yeah.
all the help she did she gave me. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what is your favorite novena or prayer?
Okay, I do have one of those. It is a prayer to Saint Joseph, and I meant to look it up to see what the actual name of it is. The name of the prayer. The prayer starts, "O Saint Joseph, whose protection is so great, so strong, so prompt before the throne of God." Um, and that I would say. Well, as far as prayers go, obviously the Hail Mary is my favorite prayer. But as far as novenas go, that would be my favorite novena. Um, and I have a holy card that has the prayer on it, and then it says at the bottom, you know, um, watch out basically when you say this prayer as a novena because it's never known to fail. So be careful what you ask for. Um, but yeah, with that one, and with I find it seems that with Saint Joseph, and especially with that prayer, um, you want to do the novena, and then you do a Thanksgiving novena right afterwards. So it's a total of 18 days in a row, and you. I usually say a prayer to Our Lady afterwards too, after the Saint Joseph prayer. But um, with it seems that with him, it's good to not ask for something super specific. So, like let's say you're having like a car problem or something like that, and don't do the novena that the car gets fixed. That this part comes and that it fixes the car, and don't be that specific. You basically say this is the problem I'm having. Basically, St. Joseph, please fix this problem, you know, and because it might not be that the car should be fixed. It might be that, somebody's going to give you a car, because I wouldn't, be surprised at all if someone did a novena to St. Joseph for car trouble and somebody just, drops a car off at their doorstep. So that's kind of the mentality when you're doing it is, don't be, basically he, tell him the problem and ask him to fix the problem. And what it does is it opens it up for you to be open to whatever God, has in mind for however the problem should be fixed. Because we think, this would be a good way or that would be a good way, but God knows what's the best way to get it fixed. And if you ask in that way, basically, please fix this problem, it helps you to be open to whatever way He chooses. And then, like I said, I've done it a lot, and it's kind of, it seems like I shouldn't be, but I'm always surprised at the results because it's always a lot of times it's something that I never expected. The problem is fixed, but it's in a way that I never thought. And it's not always right away. Sometimes it's a couple months. And then I'm thinking, how did this happen? It seemed to work out so great. And then I remember, oh yeah, I did that novena to St. Joseph a couple months ago. Wow. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it is amazing how those work. All those novenas really like
Mhm.
or I have this friend who was telling me that she did the St. Andrew's Christmas novena. And one of the things she asked for, because she's been wanting to do this for a long time but hasn't been able to, she always wanted to go horseback riding. Uh, and the day that she finished, I think, yeah, the day that she finished the novena, um, she like her mom got a call that there was an opening for like this horseback riding thing, like this training thing. And she was like, was that in your novena? And she's like, yes, that's what I always wanted. So that's what she got from her
Wow.
novena. But
Wow.
yeah. So so it shows you, God
Yeah.
will grant you most
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
Um, even if it's horseback riding, whether it's, someone to recover or, horseback riding.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
So, we heard that you run boys camp with Father Brueggemann, I believe. What is that like?
Yeah, we do that. We try to do that. So it's kind of interesting for me because I've been going to boys camp every year here at St. Gertrude's for 20 years now, actually. I started when I was 7. I think, yeah, 7 going to them. And at the time it was with Father Saavedra, and he was really good with that. He had, kind of a knack for getting, being in charge of stuff like that. And I kind of think that helped a lot with with my vocation and stuff like that, and the discipline, of being in the seminary. It helped from the his boys camps that I went to, and then just the boys camp in general. I mean, Father McKenna took over. The Bishop McGuire took over for a few years after Father Saavedra, and then it was Father McKenna, and they all do a great job, and they all helped with that, I would say. I always remember Father Saavedra is the most. He really has a knack for that. Um, so yeah, then I started doing it kind of a little before my time, I think, because Father McKenna was supposed to run it. I think it was 3 years ago now. He was planning on doing it, and Father Bruggeman and I were going to help. But then Father McKenna got sick right before boys camp, like, in bed sick, and so then we last minute had to take over and run the camp. So um then so I bet it went okay, and then the next year was better, and I think I've only done it twice now. So but yeah, it is kind of different for me to kind of be in charge of stuff, be in charge of everything. We had about I think we had about 40, around 40 boys last year. It was more than 40, but sometimes they can't make it to all the days. It's usually 3 days. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we have been just doing it here at the church. They stay overnight if they want to. Some of the boys go home if they live close. Um, but they stay overnight here on the property. They set up tents and sleep in quotes. I think they probably stay awake for a while, but at least they're supposed to be sleeping.
Yeah.
But they so and that's what we've been doing. Maybe in the future we'll see about, some people were talking about maybe trying to find a place to do it where we can, because it does, disrupt, the parish a little bit, not too much, but it might be nice to have a bigger place, or, a place, that's just designated for that. But for now we just do it here, and it works out. We have mass in the morning, and then we'll go to the first day. We go to a park that's close by, and we play sports and stuff like that. Um, and then the next day we go to um, uh, one of the parishioners' house. Actually, it's Father Brueggemann's house. They have a pool, and they have some property. So there's usually like well, last year they started doing an airsoft war, so people who feel like getting, all shot up can go can go play that. There's volleyball, and then there's the pool there too. So that works out nice. And then the third day we go to the park, and we play, usually baseball and kickball, because those are not as, not as involved. And people are kind of tired by that day. So it works out pretty good to just do some, not as intense game. I mean, baseball can get intense, but there's also a lot of just like standing around and stuff like that in it. So as opposed to like, soccer or ultimate frisbee or football where you're like running all the time, it's a little more relaxed. So that's kind of the rundown of it. Um, yeah.
Mhm. Okay, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Oh,
my
the
brothers only went to one of them, I think, but they said they had a good time. So,
yeah. Well, that's good. There's another thing, which was one of the great parts about camp that we just started doing in the last few years, is so if in the evening, you would think that everybody's tired from, being at the park or, other stuff, playing games all day, and but after the evening meal, we do this past year we did Compline. Um, which is one of the hours of divine office. So the boys get a little experience with, this is kind of, what the priest does. And then after that, because we have the benefit of having a parking lot here at St. Gertrude's, which I never knew was, that big of a deal. Apparently, I've heard that it was a surprising thing for some people to see a parking lot. But we have this nice parking lot, so we'll have like the boys will bring their rollerblades and we'll have like a rollerblading party in the parking lot in the evening. Um, and that's always fun. I always liked rollerblading too. Rollerblading, ice skating, and skiing. They're all kind of similar, and I always liked those. And I mean, many people weren't really into rollerblading, but I don't know how it got started, but somehow we have this big, like everybody, all the kids in the parish, that's like the thing to do is to get rollerblades and then, go rollerblading after, Wednesday nights we have choir practice and some of the families, the whole family will come even though there's only like one person in the choir and the whole family will come and the rest of them will just rollerblade around the parking lot. So if I can, I go out there with them and, get some exercise rollerblading around and playing tag and stuff like that. So far,
Yeah.
we haven't had anybody, breaking any bones or anything, but, you know,
that's good.
Yeah, that is really good.
hope it stays that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember for the longest time my mom wouldn't even like let me and my siblings have rollerblades because we were so clumsy and she was like, I don't want to have to go to the ER again. So we weren't allowed to rollerblade,
Yeah,
but now we are, thankfully. So
yeah, yeah.
Mhm. So now we were wondering like for people who struggle with like maintaining a good prayer life, how can you get like the proper motivation to like keep up like a good prayer life?
Well, with I guess kind of with spiritual life in general, it seems like there's kind of ups and downs. So some days you feel like praying, you're feeling, that like I don't know if you feel like praying basically, and other days you don't. So that's why we have, vocal prayers, the rosary and stuff like that, so that you can you keep doing it even when you don't feel like it. I would say is there should be you want to have some set prayers every day. I would recommend, obviously morning and evening prayers and then the rosary. Um, you know, and trying to or at least a part of the rosary, and you want to just make sure you do them if you don't feel any devotion on a particular day, that's okay. You get more merit. God gives you more graces if you pray even when you don't feel like it. So it's good to try to keep that up. And then reading lives of the saints, I would say, kind of gives you a little more motivation to pray when you hear stories about, how what their prayers did for them and stuff like that. To helped them in their life. So, but it is kind of always a difficult thing. There's always going to be times when you really don't feel like doing it. But the thing is to just, try to get yourself to do it and try to do it as best as you can, even though you don't feel like doing it, and God rewards you for that, so but it's not always something you're gonna feel like doing. But
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. That's good advice.
Yeah.
And for our last question, do you have any advice to teen?
um, actually, I liked what Bishop and Kamake had to say. I actually listened to a lot of your stuff, so
Oh,
Oh, okay.
um,
Well, thank
which
you.
is really weird for me being on it now and seeing it from this aspect because I'm used to hearing it like the finished production. So, but yeah, but I liked what he said about the rosary. Encouraging people to say the rosary. Some people say the rosary with their family, which is a very good thing. If you don't say the rosary with your family, or you just perhaps your family isn't even Catholic, or not all of them are Catholic, then you try to say it on your own. Um, but also what I said, what I was saying about prayer and how, you have to do it every day. I would say that you should, as teenagers, this is a kind of, it's you should have some prayer that you do that's yours, some devotion. It doesn't have to be long. It can be, three Hail Marys or the Memorare prayer, some short prayer like that. If it's, prayer to know your vocation, then that's good too. But it should some prayer that you do. Um, that's not, your parents didn't tell you to do it, but it's something that you do from your own devotion, because as you're growing up, in teenage years and stuff, you're becoming more independent. You're physically more independent. They're not, telling you which clothes to wear, and, feeding you and stuff like that. So they're not taking care of you in that way as much anymore. They're letting you do more stuff on your own. And same in the spiritual life, you know, you're becoming more independent in, just as you're taking care of yourself more physically now, you're you're kind of expected to take care of your soul too. But it's more, you're in charge now of, or you're getting more in charge of taking care of your own soul. So your parents aren't going to be, um, you know, um, well, they still, if they hopefully they still will help you with that. They give you the ability to go to the sacraments, and, a Catholic atmosphere and stuff like that. But some things, once you get your license, or, if you have a job somewhere, you're going to be around people who are not Catholic, and you have to be, you're in charge of your soul now. Your parents aren't there to make sure that this person doesn't talk to you, and that, you respond to this person, or you don't see this or that. It's more of yourself. It's part of growing up. And I would say that, having that devotion of your own is really helpful to remind you that, you're more in charge of your soul now. It's your job to take care of your soul. Yeah, your parents are still going to help, and, hopefully they'll help you in that way. But you have to take your own salvation more seriously now, and having some devotion of your own, that is your own, that you motivate yourself to do every day. It kind of reminds you of that. And so, that's why I would say, you know try to, because prayer is, Father Brugman talked a lot about prayer and the importance of prayer. And, it is important thing. Prayer is an important thing. And, it kind of is something that has to come from yourself. It can't be, you say the prayers that your parents tell you to say, and that's it. You want to have a devotion to prayer that from yourself. And, especially as you get older, it's gonna be more of your own. And then, by the time, if you move out of the house, then it's all on your own, and you have to. So it's good to start with, when you're young, having some devotion of your own, so you can practice, you know disciplining yourself and taking care of your own soul. So
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
what I would say with that.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I know it's gonna help a lot of people, and it'll help me too. So yeah, that's probably my favorite question to ask people, is because like it always like leaves a big impact on me when somebody
Yeah.
answers that. So yeah.
Yeah. And you get some, like I said, I've listened to some other ones, and, you get, some of the stuff that those other priests were saying, like, wow, wish I would have heard that when I was young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why
So,
Gian and I are really lucky because we get like so much input from
yeah.
like different priests and stuff. So yeah.
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 Yeah. All right. Well, that was our last question, and thank you so much for coming on. But do you have anything else to add before we let you go?
No, I think I've said enough so far, and, well, I'm sure there's more that could be said, but hopefully not by me. So hopefully somebody who's a little better at saying things. And, no, I thank you for having me on. It's been great.
Mhm. Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you for
Yeah,
coming
thanks
on.
for coming on.
All right.
All right, so that wraps up this episode, and thank you guys so much for listening.
So we might make it a thing now where we just don't tell you who's coming next, because our schedule is so messed up. And I was actually talking to my mom about it one time. I was like, "Oh yeah," because we needed to redo an intro. or outro or whatever. And I was telling my mom about it because she's like, "Oh, when are you recording?" Da da da. And I said, "Yeah, we messed up who was coming next." And my mom's like, "Well, you guys get that wrong all the time." I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, in every single episode, you get it wrong. It's just a thing that people expect now." And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even realize we were doing that the entire time." So I apologize to everyone who has ever had to listen to that. But from now on, we're just going to leave you in suspense because
Yeah.
we don't know who's coming next. We have people, we just don't know which order
Yeah.
they are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so you are left in suspense.
Dun dun dun. Okay, sorry. As always, God bless and Saint Philomena,
Powerful of God,
pray
pray
for
for
us.
us.